jerk off of all trades.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I've watched the light drain from people's eyes.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 3 of ARTBOX. And today's guest is somebody I would have had probably the first episode. This definitely won't be the last one because we can talk forever. We have so much to say, and he's very creative. My brother, Vincent Herman. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I would describe myself more as a filmmaker than an artist, but that's just because I don't see what I do as art. Ohio born and raised, been living in Sauter County for like 20 years. And yeah, I don't know. Avid nerd, wrestling, punk rocker guy.
Yeah, those all fall in there for sure. Comedy. You've done a lot of theater, skits,
Yeah.
a lot of editing, a lot of videography.
Yeah. Jerk off of all trades.
Well, you've done quite a bit, and I think you're a lot more creative than you give yourself credit for. Because even when I've put out our the Creative Jargon Inktober, you even jumped in and did like at least 6 days of it. I think you drew 6 pictures.
Yeah, I've shown people a few of those too, and I'm like, this is what I can do when I really take my time and hone in and like try as hard as I can to keep my fingers straight. Like, because I will shake and stuff. I recently actually thought about pulling those out and being like, hey, if I drew dumb shit like this and put it on like cards, would people buy them? So I haven't made the post yet, but like I've flirted with that idea. It's just dumb garbage that comes out of my brain in art form.
Yeah, the Vincent Herman TCG.
Oh,
yeah.
Now, we did do some stuff back in high school. You want to talk about that real quick? We used to make our own cards back in the day.
I forgot about that.
So, yeah. We were really obsessed with the Dragon Ball Z TCG, and I still am. Like, I'm always looking for them. They're nowhere to be found, so I never find them, but I'm always looking for them. And we used to draw our own cards of ourselves, and on occasion, we'd fuck around, throw them in our decks and stuff, but nothing really came of it. But it was just something fun we did.
One thing I want to bring up is, do you remember when we found out that we could use just regular erasers on the Pokemon cards, and we erased the original art on original Pokemon cards, and we started drawing our own characters and shit in there?
Yeah, we redrew the art on some cards. We did some of our own characters, and then like there was also a couple we had done where we had cut the art off of packs or like out of like the TCG guidebooks and stuff, and then pasted them in and then drew the background for it. So yeah, we fucked around with doing some cards. Also,
yeah,
I've only seen I saw the first one, lemon squid. I wanted to say lemon night, and I was like, no, that's something else. But lemon squid. I still need to watch DJs, but is there cursing allowed on this? I can't remember.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Okay, because I've already fucking cursed like twice.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Damn.
But yeah, sounds like you got into a little bit of a mixed media after a little while once you started incorporating the packages and the cutouts and everything on the card. So yeah, I think you're a little more creative than you give yourself credit for. Lately, you've also fleshed out more of your tattoos, and those are inherently pretty creative. The most recent one you have, I think, is the skateboard one.
Oh yeah, the skateboard ghost.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Before that, there was your first tattoo, which was done by our cousin and designed by me. Why don't we go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about that story?
So here's the thing. Teenagers are fucking stupid. Even the smartest ones, pretty dumb. And I am far from one of the smartest ones. I wanted a tattoo at 17. Now, a little backstory onto this. I was a very young father. Got a girl pregnant in high school around the time I was 17, and I wanted to get his initials tattooed on me. But obviously, I couldn't afford like a whole ass tattoo. I was bussing tables and stuff. So what I did was I had my 13-year-old brother, Travis Herman, draw us up a little quick something, which I do still argue look better than what ended up on my neck, but that's a whole other thing. Had him draw it out on some like what did we do? We had you draw it over the top of a lamp or something, or
I
something
think
like that.
I think he had me draw it directly onto wax paper. That way he could just transfer it.
Okay, I remember getting a lamp involved somewhere, but yeah. So we had Travis draw it, and then I went over to his house like a couple days later, and he just sits me down on his floor, sits on his mattress, which of course was in the floor, and we put a little ACDC on and got to work. And it is my worst tattoo, and it's also why I didn't get tattoos for like 17 years because I learned real fast. Oh, this shit's permanent, and it can go real poorly.
Oh,
Um, so I was like, I can't afford like good tattoos, and I don't want any more shitty tattoos. So moving on. And then eventually, I got. I think my first tattoo after that was the supernatural symbol, the protection sigil, and then
yeah.
John McClane's tattoo for Sweet and Die Hard.
Oh yeah, that one's so awesome. Also, a good time being woken up at 3 in the morning to draw that tattoo.
We were probably drunk too.
I couldn't report on that. I just remember being like that meme where the guy's like woken up the and then I draw that, and I think I just went back to bed after that. I don't really recall. I hung out a little bit. Well, now that we
Yeah.
know some of your inspirations for your tattoos and some of your actual artwork, what are your inspirations for film? Because that's what you're grinding on right now. You've been uh busting your ass on writing. You've been putting out skits, working on movies, and you guys just released a podcast. Tell me some of your inspirations from maybe favorite movies and shows. What are some of your favorites, and which ones do you draw from to actually like put into your work a little bit?
And now, like, had you asked me this 2 years ago, I couldn't have answered this question like for shit. Like, I was so bad at the question, like, what are your favorite movies? And like, right off the bat, I could name like Die Hard, Eternal Sunshine, Metropolis. But and I'm even like in a phase of maybe reassessing my top 10 list. But um
Yes, keep going.
a little bit more like retrospectively looking back at the things that we've worked on with Subject to Change Entertainment and even just the effort I've put into things as small as the sketches. And what I think I really appreciate is the idealism of creating a separate world. And even if you're not going to see it on screen, what are the details here? Why is this character making this decision? How is this little insignificant thing going to pay off? If we're showing it on camera, it's the Chekhov's gun thing, but it's so important to me because so many people sweep that. So many people are like, it's not that important. We're just going to show it because it's cool. No. Bring it back. Bring it back. Make it matter. It's so easy. You just have to think about it. That's all. Movies like Die Hard are my favorite because if you really break down that movie, and I had to get us prepared for Sweet and Die Hard, not really had to. I didn't have to. I did a lot more work on that than anyone asked for or was necessary. But I really broke that movie down in a way that I had never done before. And it's so fascinating, like, of things that just you see right in the beginning, and then it's like all the way at the end came right back. Whether it's a line, like an insignificant piece of set, so many things like that. So I love pulling from movies that pay attention to the detail, just as a way that I conduct myself, always asking the question, why? Why is this character doing this? Why is this necessary? As far as like inspirations of filmmaking, like actually making a film, I can't pull from like Die Hard or like big budget things because I don't know what that looks like. I've never been able to play in that world. Zod willing, I'll be allowed to someday. So I look to things more like Clerks or the Blair Witch Project, like these extremely small productions, like shoestring budgets. I think Clerks was like $50,000. Blair Witch was 60,000. Like, and they were just going out there and doing it, working around their work schedules. Really guerrilla filmmaking. So that's the kind of stuff that I pulled from and didn't even realize I had been learning from all these years after watching like so many behind the scenes featurettes and listening to DVD commentaries over and over again, and just little things that I picked up from Kevin Smith and Eduardo Sanchez, yes, and Daniel Mayer. But
Which
yeah, those are the people who really inspire me, and like that I can look at and go like, they prove that you can just do it if you just want to do it. And
yeah,
that's really the nexus of my filmmaking attitude. I want to do it, so I'm just gonna do it.
yeah.
And if people want to buy it or see it afterwards, cool. But like, I'm in it for the doing it.
I can think of maybe a couple other influences from, maybe a third person. Obviously there's the Clerks and Kevin Smith, and the Blair Witch stuff, but also I think in your writing a good bit of like Friends has influenced like the way you carry conversations and uh like a lot of the skits where the comedy and stuff comes in, bridging the gaps between jokes and scenes. Uh, Feels like it comes very naturally to you. Maybe it's just from watching a lot of things.
I would not consider like, I've never thought of a specific genre for me, which is like the whole reason Subject to Change Entertainment is Subject to Change Entertainment, because I don't want to be pigeonholed. But
Hmm.
I do tend to drift back to comedy, especially absurdist comedy more and more. And now that you say that, I do have to. I think a lot of that comes from Mad TV back in the day.
I
Mad
think,
TV was like my go-to. SNL, who cares? I was
yeah,
always watching Mad TV, man. And they would do some of the really absurd stuff. Like some of the stuff that like people associate with SNL now, like Mad TV's bread and butter. Just the most ridiculous things you could think of, just make it onto screen.
oh
Um,
yeah,
well, conversation is a big thing. Um, Speaking of Kevin Smith, and now here's going to be my only name drop. This is the only one I have. When Kevin Smith talked at me for about 5 or 6 minutes after answering, picking me to during a Q&A, he gave me some really valuable advice. And here's a great thing about him: he looks at you when he like answering your question. He might like dart off to the sides once or twice, but like he is locked onto you. He's answering your question, and essentially told me that like dialogue is free, so use it. You can have your characters say anything you want for an hour and a half, and that could be your whole fucking movie. But just so long as like the scenes keep moving, it's fine. Now, obviously, I'm not going to write a movie like two people just talking for an hour and a half, or I might, but conversation is king. Like, that's how you build characters, and that's how you can keep a scene going when you don't have like a big car explosion or like a giant like monster for people to fight.
I'm glad you said absurdist humor because that reminds me of. I'm going to list off some roots here for you, um, that really influenced your absurdist comedy. Because I know now that we're thinking of it, I had to do the same thing recently. I'm doing a AMA, and someone asked what my influences were and or inspirations and stuff, and I was like, well, just because I like something doesn't really mean it does something in my work. Like it doesn't show through my work if can't really call that an
Right.
influence. But everything we've named here has been. But here's some good ones as well for your absurdist humor. Waverly Films, Whitest Kids You Know. What are some other? Oh, Smosh. We used to love Smosh back in the day.
I'm really glad you brought these people up, because you know what? I haven't been thinking about that enough either. When I talk to people about like inspirations and stuff and who proved we could do this. Yeah, I do not give that appropriate credit. And yeah, Waverly Films, Barats and Beretta, the old Channel 101 stuff that we used to watch all the time.
Yeah.
Uh there's probably 100 other things that I'm forgetting about, but the reason we started doing STCWW back in the day, um, getting away from jackass videos and more doing sketches was because of those people. Like, honestly, we probably wouldn't be doing sketches now if I hadn't cut my teeth. We hadn't cut our teeth back then doing that stuff, which was also very absurdist, but that was all inspired by those like pre YouTube to early YouTube pioneers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
pistachio pudding makes me feel sick. Like lives in my head forever.
Badger, Badger, Badger.
Yeah. Yeah, ridiculous stuff that like set the world on fire. Everyone was talking about it before YouTube and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff is a big inspiration as well. And I still show people those videos. I just showed somebody want to buy a ghost.
And that's kind of for the audience here. That's kind of what we're doing here with the glasses and stuff. I have to tap out on the glasses.
Okay.
God,
Well, I'm gonna change my shirt if you don't mind.
feeling better. All right. Well, now that we've covered some of those inspirations from high budgets to from directors to YouTubers, early internet stuff, let's actually give the audience some tips on general video production.
Well, before we get started on this, I do wanna give you a little heads up. Like this is one of the things I thought about before we were recording and everything. I'm gonna be a realist on this one because like we've been saying in our various screenings and stuff, like anyone can do this, blah blah blah. And overall, that is the message: is that anyone can do this if you've got the gumption. But I'm tired of getting some questions that lead me to believe that like it's too easy. So, well, I'm gonna hit on some of those things. Really, pre-production just starts with whatever the hell pops in your head. W- uh, for me, pre-production really starts in the head. Like I'm thinking about what I want to do. Ah, shit, that's funny. I'm making myself laugh here. Like I am already seeing things cinematically before we ever start shooting anything. I'm editing concept to the end product. Um, and not everybody operates that way, but from what I understand, that is a really good way to approach things is to see things in your head, know what you want, adjust on the fly when you have to, but like from the very beginning, know what your concept looks like, then put it down on the page. And I've heard a lot of other filmmakers do that. Obviously, again, not everyone operates that way, but that's really where I start from. It's all in my head, and then eventually, whether I do like a treatment or just a really rough script, like with no like specifics yet, but just to get it down, that's where I start, and then I move on to the script phase. That part's a little more like I don't really know that I need to describe that too much. I would say people really do need to pay attention to margins when they're doing their scripts. Um, there's a lot of now if it's just for you or just for your actors and like your actors aren't like you're actors, you're just doing this with your friends. I wouldn't sweat it too much, but just make it legible and obvious. Like, okay, here's where the dialogue is, here's where the scene action is. But like for me, I try to write more towards the preferred screen or preferred margins that like a normal screenplay would adhere to. Um, but you can find YouTube videos on all that.
Okay, so yeah, train yourself a little bit on what the industry norms are for scripts and programs and stuff like that. You also said the ideation part of it. What would you consider like an aha? What makes a good idea for you actually start going down this road? You said something like things that make you laugh, and so like comedy, like serve yourself a little bit, whatever makes you laugh.
Yeah, if I'm laughing, I'm writing it down. Like, or at least I should be. Sometimes I don't always like. I'm like, oh goddamn, that's funny. We should remember that, and then like it floats off into the universe. So be really careful about making notes too. I've got a whole note on my phone that's just filled with shit from where I'm just like, real quick, jot that down.
Mhm.
But yeah, if I'm making myself laugh, it's making it to paper. That is a clear indicator for me. But yeah, it has to be something. It has to be something you're into.
Yeah.
Not to say that, because again, this is all just advice I've heard. You might get to a point in your career where like you are taking a paycheck, and that project might not come out as good as something you're passionate about. But if the money's on your hands, if it's your project, if like you're the one responsible for making it good, like if you're not into it, you're not gonna, you know. And I mean, there's always outliers. Like everything I say should be taken with an asterisk of not everybody, but most of the time, yeah. If you're not passionate about an idea, you're not going to put your whole self into it, and you're going to turn out like a less than stellar product. Um,
Right.
we see this happen all the time with movies.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll put money first and stuff like that, and it's you get a lot of crap out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, studio interference is like the number one killer of any really great project. If you're playing on that level, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you know what you're in for. My kind of side of pre-production, since I do like mainly just YouTube videos and stuff right now, art videos, I'll do an outline that also just includes the script, and I also include my edit notes. So that's all in like one big outline if I'm gonna write it out. Some stuff like you said, you kind of know it in your head. I don't do storyboards and stuff for like YouTube videos.
Right.
Yeah. But for like bigger projects like an original short film or something, that's one good way of getting people into seeing what the movie's like and seeing how it flows and start drawing out those, square by square by square. And
Yeah.
you can do as many as you want, or as few as you need. But that's kind of like how my pre-production goes. It's just little outline notes. Once you have a good idea, you got things written down, you're ready to do production. Um, what I don't know exactly how to say this for you. You have a bigger camera and stuff. You've done stuff on phones as well, but um, trying to think of how to talk about it in a general sense. That way, anybody can. Um, get familiar with your camera. Get familiar with lighting. Study lighting a little bit. I've been doing a little bit here, not a whole lot, but YouTube lighting, I guess. But those are kind of things that'll help newbies in production and stuff. What are some tips that you would have on production?
Now, see, this is where I'm still learning, especially in the sound department. However, I did just listen to a podcast that had like a lot of tips that I was like, oh, we're using those on the next production if we can. And I really feel like one of our next purchases will be a boom mic, because that's something we need. If we're going to start producing these things with better sound. But I'm still learning lighting. I'm still learning how to go about it. The thing that I'm proficient at, I would say, as far as like what goes through the camera, is setting up the shot. I think that comes from the fact that, like I said, from the very beginning, I saw what that looked like in my head, and now I need to make it look like that in the camera. And so I've gotten really good at, again, familiarizing myself with the camera. But yeah, and I'm playing on a much smaller level than a lot of other people. There are some cameras out there with some settings like I couldn't tell you anything about right now, because I haven't messed with any of that. I'm working with a $900 camera that at the time was like a $1,200 camera. Still not that expensive. And that thing is like 9 years old, probably like 10, 11 years old now. Decent camera.
Yeah, if
Does
anybody wants to check out the quality of those, there's the magic pens on Creative Jargon, and then there's tons of stuff on the Subject to Change Patreon.
this stuff on the Subject to Change Entertainment YouTube. That's where all of our sketches go up too. So you can see it at work on those. But yeah, I'm still learning myself, man. Like I'm in film school. It just so happens like I didn't have to pay that much for it.
We're kind of going down that route, the same the YouTube University in a sense, but we're also a little old school, so we're no stranger to books and actually getting out there and just doing it by hand.
Well, that's how I learned. Like I honestly couldn't. I don't think I could do film school and really take much from it without getting my hands on things. And I know that they do that in film school, but I'm on the wrong side of my 30s. Still just getting started in this stuff. Like I've only been at this like year and a half, 2 years now, like really deciding what to do with my life, what I want. from my life, because that aforementioned child that I had is now a fully grown man. So I'm out here trying to figure out what I want for my life. So I don't feel like I have time for film school. I got to get my hands on a camera, get some actors, and just go.
Well, sounds like you've already learned a lot of stuff anyways. We covered some good notes there. That was, get familiar with whatever camera it is that you have. Get familiar with whatever lights it is that you have and study that stuff online, so you can place them and stuff and the settings
Oh,
for
yeah.
like ISOs and exposure. But also you said audio, and that is a big game changer for most like video productions, especially for like just YouTube videos to making it look like an official movie. That was a real good point.
Yeah, if I can share what I learned for a moment, so I could pass this along to the podcast I was listening to is called "Filmmaking Sucks." The essential things I took from it is apparently don't run sound through your camera. Be recording sound separately.
Yeah.
Um, you can record the sound through your camera, but just to use as like a reference. As well as apparently a good tip is to be doing ADR on set. So you run a scene, send the crew out aside from the sound guy and the actors, have them run the lines like 3 or 4 times real quick, just right there on the fly, close in with the mic, so you have it and stuff. Room tone, which we
Yeah.
kind of started doing on Indiscriminate Way to Mondays, but I didn't take it as far as we should have. Room tone's so important. 3 minutes of just audio, and you don't let anyone leave. You keep everyone there. You want the that room tone to bounce off of the bodies in the scene. But yeah, 3 minutes of room tone can like help you out so much. So those are the major three things that I took from that podcast that I intend to be using moving forward.
Yeah, if we had like the money for some of these bigger budgets, when you record that external audio, like say you have lav mics recording externally, I think programs like DaVinci Resolve may let you film into, or maybe it was Black Magic or something like that, but it syncs the audio to it on the computer. That way you do have both, but it's already synced up for you.
Don't know why I never knew this, and again, I'm still in film school here, but that clapperboard, that's what that's there for. It's
Yeah,
like
sync.
when you see people do the claps for a podcast audio. That's the purpose of the clapperboard, is to sync audio.
Now that we've covered production a bit, we said come up with an idea, get all that written down, film it, make sure you light it, make sure you mic it, move on to post production, which is I'd say let's start with editing. Um, well, I'll let you take the lead on this one. How do you start your post production once you have all your assets together?
Well, we missed a very crucial part of pre-production, and this is where I want to kind of throw a little bit of water on people's fire real quick. Post-production is all fun and games when it's, writing the script and bouncing ideas off of people and like getting your actors together. But then you have to start lining up locations. Obviously, if you're doing it in your house or you have a buddy who has a garage that's going to let you use that, cool. But if you're going to use like Market Street Cafe, which we're going to be using for an upcoming thing, you got to kind of converse with the guy who owns it. And sometimes maybe people aren't good at texting you back right away, but you also don't want to, like hound on them too much. So you got to give it a day or two. And that can be frustrating. It was like, yeah, what, gonna get to use this? Is this okay? Like, and then they say, okay, now you got to set up a time and a day, and like you got to bounce that with your actors and their schedules. And especially if you're working down here, their 9 to 5 jobs are going to come before your film. And so you got to work around that. So there's a lot of scheduling involved, a lot of logistics. If you're doing it on a more official level, like an LLC, like what we're working with, you gotta be on top of those release forms, likeness rights, a lot of contracting that goes into that. And if you're not willing or capable of paying the fees to like get these forms from like Rocket Lawyer or whatever, you gotta type them yourself.
Yeah.
which is what I do. So there's a lot of pre-production stuff that you should be aware of, should acknowledge before, like you're saying, I'm gonna go make a film.
Yeah.
Now obviously, it's a little easier if you're not an official registered business, but there's still a lot of logistics involved. So people need to be aware of that before they get started. It's not as
Yeah.
easy as sending somebody a message on Facebook saying, "Do you want to do my idea?" And then we just do your idea.
Yeah.
Might be coming from a personal place on that one.
Right. Scheduling and location in pre-production is super important for how the rest of this is gonna go.
For any prospective actors or people who sign on to help, please take this piece of advice from me. Do not change your plans on a moment's notice. Please take it as seriously as the filmmakers, because you really, really, really frustrate us when you go like, no, I'm just not going to do it today. Sorry.
Right.
Well, no, you signed a contract. We got paperwork now. Like,
Yeah.
that stuff could drive somebody insane.
Yeah. Show up for yourself, even,
Yeah.
that's your reputation.
Yeah, things happen. I mean, family emergencies happen, medical emergencies happen. Like, these things happen. And if the person you're working with isn't a dickhead, then like they'll understand that and they'll work with you. But people who are just like, "No, I'm gonna show up an hour late," and you really fucked up an hour of everyone's time. Not, we're not all here for just you.
Yeah.
So that's stuff to be aware of. But you asked about editing, so let's talk about editing. This might be a two-parter, dude. Okay, so for me, it has kind of changed depending on what the project is. For instance, we did some videos for the Portsmouth Little Theater, doing kind of like interviews with their cast of their show and kind of interspersing it with rehearsal footage. And I was not sure how to edit that in the beginning. On the first one we did, I was just throwing it at the wall. I was like, all right, I know what a talking head, looks like. I'm just gonna vaguely shoot things that they're doing on stage, like try to get the best shots I can, and then like figure out how that goes together. Well, what happened for me on that was that I found out that it's so much easier to create the narrative of your video through the interviews. Worry about the rehearsal footage later. And as you're doing that, you'll kind of like go, oh, this piece from the rehearsal fits really good here. Like, this kind of what they just said here, like, leads right into that. But when it's been something narrative based for like a short film or a sketch, again, that was just in my head already. I knew, like, we filmed it, it goes in this order. I don't start editing from the last scene or whatever. Now I'm sure in like big budget productions, once they've finished a scene, they're probably sending things over to the editors, getting those done. And then once they've got all of their scenes edited, they start constructing the thing. I still have so much to learn about that. But for me, I start right from the beginning. I go from beginning to end, put the scenes in line. Then I bring in sound effects. Then I'll bring in music, which usually means I have to adjust the sound effects. And then I move on to color corrections and stuff, because really the way it looks is one of the easier parts of the editing process. Like, that I can go and do at any point in the editing process. The hardest part is music and sound. So that's what I really focus on getting right before finalizing it and getting all the cleanup done. I guess I should have said it does start with going through the entire folder of everything you've recorded, watching all of them to make sure, like, do I need this one? We just rolled for 30 seconds for no reason. So, like, we'll delete that, that could take a while, but yeah, that's the first step.
You mentioned skits, narratives, kind of some teaser promo stuff for the PLT, but also
Yeah.
then there's like simpler projects which I guess is part of post-production and distribution, which would be a trailer maybe for your film or your product.
Honestly, trailer is harder for me than the thing itself. Like, Indiscriminate Way to Mondays. So much easier to edit that because I knew what I wanted from it. And even if like something changes during the editing for that, or I realize like, oh, I actually don't like this scene, we can lose it. Something like that doesn't really flip the table too much. But a trailer has to get enough information out to entice the audience without giving them too much information to give away the aha moments of the product, while at the same time fitting within a very specific margin of time. And then you got to find the right music.
Yeah.
And the music is always the hardest part for me. That's the thing that takes me forever.
Yeah, scouring audio libraries for sound effects and music is a headache. um,
Yeah, speaking of the indiscriminate way to Mondays, we released that in 3 parts on YouTube first, um, and then cut it all together as a full short film. Each day, every single part, all 3 parts, I was finishing at like 3 to 5 in the morning. Morning it's supposed to go up because I had spent so much time going through music and just like not being satisfied with everything that was fun, and then finally like stumbling across it and then going like, okay, now we can move on to finishing this damn thing.
yeah.
And it was no different for the short film. I finished the short film the morning of our first screening.
You have a taste. You know what you want for this. And if you don't get the right thing, then it doesn't really come off right.
Yeah.
So now that we've talked about a good bit about the editing process, use whatever free software you have. Right now, CapCut is actually a really good app. I've been using that one for a while. Then there's also Shotcut, which is also a free one. I think we already mentioned DaVinci Resolve. That's an expensive one that's not free.
We've been using HitFilm Pro and its sister program Emerge, which is basically their Photoshop. Not top of the line, but it does a lot more than I've expected it to do. Some of the videos we've produced have had like VHS effects. The trailer for Honky Tonk Hissy Fit for the PLT actually starts out with I was really happy with it, like lame VHS recorded type of commercial element
Yeah.
to it. And all of that was done in HitFilm. That program's done very well for us. It's $20 a month to unlock the features you need for it to do really well for you, but not that expensive, if especially if you're actively using it. It can do a lot. I would prefer to be working with Adobe, and we're going to get there. We're working on getting there, but yeah, HitFilm, not bad.
Let's talk about distribution. Basically, you've edited the product, your video, whether it be a skit film, music video, teaser, trailer, what have you. Now you want to plan how you want to get this out to people. How do you go about your distribution process?
Well, it really depends on what you want. Obviously, if it is a sketch for YouTube, because we have a Patreon, what we try to do is put that on our Patreon first, a week out from when we're going to put it on YouTube, but we start editing it, or we start advertising it throughout that week. That's kind of the plan we've put together here. So it'll go up on Patreon. We start posting on Facebook, Instagram, like, hey, next week on Tuesday, new sketch, and then the sketch will go up. Then, you post and advertise it as best you can. Try to keep it in front of people, but eventually you got to move on to other stuff. So it's going to have the life that it's going to have, and you just got to move on. If it only gets 3 views, don't let that live in your head, because you got other ideas, and that brain space will be much better off used for that than wondering, why can't I get anyone to watch this video? Just keep moving. If it's something like a short film or a feature film, that is more malleable. You can throw it up on YouTube for sure. And again, it'll have the same life as anything else that you put on YouTube. It all depends on the tags you use, or the time you post it, or how well you advertised it on the various social medias, and then what their algorithms are doing, and when you posted it on them, and what tags you used there to really get people engaged with it. What we've liked to do is, when we have something like that, we like to do screenings around town. It was made locally with local actors, so why shouldn't the locals get to see it first? So we'll run screenings with that. What we like to do is put trailers for our other stuff at the beginning, like as if it were like a real movie experience. You get trailers. We're going to show you a sketch, maybe 2, that we've done for YouTube, and then boom, we're into the short film or feature film, but we've only had one of those so far. And then from there, we'll put it up on YouTube for a week. Again, It'll have the life it has. And then we like to put it behind our paywall. A lot of energy, effort, and sometimes money goes into these things. So I feel it's only appropriate that it should go behind the paywall for the people who actually fund what we're doing, to be able to watch at their leisure. Occasionally, we might bring it out for an anniversary screening on YouTube or something, and we do, like Travis showed earlier, we have a Sweet of Die Hard Blu-ray. We're working on another Blu-ray coming up here soon that'll have a few projects on it. But other than that, yeah, I feel they're best served behind the paywall, where if people really want to see them, they'll pay $5 to see them.
You mentioned something good there. During pre-production, if you have a way to know when you want your movie to be done, let's say it's a movie or a short film, in the industry they do like 6 months in advance of like the movie drop, I'm pretty sure. But for like a smaller budget, local or type thing, you don't want to like irritate people by posting about it too much. So like I've been seeing like good reactions from like a 3 month window. If you have like a short film or something, start advertising it 3 months in advance, get it done within 3 months if you can. But that's just a good window to raise awareness to keep people like thinking
Right.
about it.
With Sweet and Die Hard, we tripped and accidentally did it so right. I feel like that's the reason we had the reaction to it when it came out, when we were doing our screenings, especially that first screening at the theater. One, we couldn't charge admission, so people were very willing to come see a free movie that was made
Yeah.
locally. But also, we had like 2 months of advertising, like, because that's about how long we spent editing. I think that's around the time the trailer came out, was about 2 months in advance. And then, of course, we'd been posting behind the scenes stuff like during the production of it. But
Mhm.
yeah, we accidentally did that really well, and I've had marketing majors tell me that we did that really well. So yeah,
Yeah.
marketing and knowing when you want it to come out, that is a really helpful thing too. I mean, if you don't want to stress it until after it's done and edited, fine. Edit the thing, get it completely finished, but just be careful. Don't talk about it too much. And then once you got it finished, go like, all right, this is going to come out in 2 months. Even though it's done, we're going to sit on it for 2 months and start advertising. It's very important.
There's a study apparently that's like telling people something that you hold important. If you're screaming something of importance out to people and nobody like reacts to it and stuff, you're more likely to lose interest in it in yourself. So if you just hold out and like work on your project by yourself until you know it's going to happen in fruition, then you can start telling people about it and it'll be on track. Just like Sweet of Die Hard went, because it was getting done.
Also, there's so much noise out there. There's so much noise. And especially if you're in an artistic space, like where everyone's got a project going on, like you really got to stand out and do it quick, but not too quick. It's very delicate. There's such a balance to it. But yeah, you got to fight the noise.
I think it's something that was very clever with Sweet of Die Hard. That released on Christmas, or was that? Yeah, we did it on Christmas and New Year's, didn't we?
It was on my son's birthday.
Okay. But it was very clever because the whole thing about that is it a Christmas movie? It definitely is. We definitely leaned into the Christmas advertising of the whole thing.
Well, if you remember, I think it was supposed to come out in November, like early November. And then uh, the two things that held us up were editing and the score. So it was kind of obvious, like, and also like we were behind on filming the thing too. So like at a certain point, we were like, okay, we know this is coming out in December, but luckily we hadn't advertised the date at all yet. That's when we finally, once we knew it was December, we were like, we're doing it then. Like, no more excuses. Like, I will edit every day, every moment, quit my job if I have to, which I eventually did.
Right.
uh, yeah, we were like, we're coming out late December for sure.
Well, that's basically like a step by step of like how it can go if you want to do all these steps. Or
And as chaotic as that step by step was, that's how chaotic the process is going to be too. So be prepared for that.
there's a different way to make things. I'd like to tell the audience about a technique that we termed called sweet find, which isn't
Oh yeah,
exactly an original concept. What it is, back when it
not
happened,
at all.
was improv, and we had a very loose narrative of what we wanted to like do. We're like, oh yeah, let's shoot this next. That'll be funny. So we were saying it all out loud to each other. As I'm older, I realized what we did was a lot of improv, and we've also brought that technique back into like a later sketch, like real movie, where we took a joke and then we had our bullet notes for how we wanted it to go, and then we improvised everything. And I think that was a very fun process.
Yeah, sweet finding it is one of my favorite things for us to do. It's improvisational, but it's got some structure to it. But just like whatever comes out of our heads, like makes it in that moment, makes it onto the screen. Now, it shouldn't be held to the same standard as improvisation because improvisation is live in front of an audience. Like, if you're doing it really well, like you're a fucking champion because like that's hard to do. At least we have a moment to like sit and go like, oh, let's film this. And, like, looks like shit. Let's reframe it and we can do takes and stuff. But yeah, we did that for our Patreon introduction video. We just went off the cuff. And we had brought ideas too to do for that video and didn't do any of them. And then we did it again for Real Movie. Real Movie just got out of hand real fast, especially once I was like, "Oh, hold on, I'm gonna go get costume stuff."
Yeah.
I just brought a bunch of shit back downstairs.
That's also another way to get things filmed or fill space. Get the costumes out. Get all your items out. I have an item box right here. That's where the glasses come in.
That is another way you could do it. Like, don't have a fully fleshed out idea. Get the camera out, start from wherever your beginning is, and just kind of go and let it figure itself out organically. That is a way to do it. I mean, it's a very unconventional way to do it, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, story could be kind of human nature sometimes. It bounce ideas off each other as long as you're communicating. If you have somebody, or if it's just you, think of all the, think of how a story goes. Think of how dialogue goes. What comes next, and play with that. What are some of the things you've learned about the difference between creating for fun and actually doing it for a sustainable income?
Well, I can say this. My heart lives on the page when I'm writing and set when we're filming. Now, I do really enjoy the editing process, but that can be pretty frustrating sometimes. But like those two spaces are where I know I'm doing what I want to do. I know I'm in the game that I put a lot of effort to get into. As far as the business side, that fucking sucks. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And we're ever changing. We've got another meeting tomorrow. From the day where we're recording this on a Thursday, we've got a meeting tomorrow on Friday. To flesh things out again. From where we've started streaming and doing the podcast and stuff. But I do have to say it's been we're in the 5th month of this year and we haven't filmed anything. It's not good. I don't like that. So I've been distracted with the business side of things, with the how do we make money of it all. And with 3 other business partners, those are questions that are going to come up and they're questions that need answered and they're valid. So what I can definitely say is that I couldn't do it alone, the business side of things, because I could, like, if what I wanted to do was just like tear down the business thing, go like, no, we're not going to do that anymore, and then just write stuff, gather people together and go like, hey, we're going to film on this day, let's go do it and stuff. We could do that. It might be a little harder, especially without like a budget or like business connections to go film at this place or that place, but it's doable. So like, I don't really need the business side for that. But if I really want eyes and the business and the creative projects to grow, business side helps with that. And that's why we do things like stream or have a podcast, so we can reach a few more audiences and get a couple more eyes over here. But but there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of conversation. And if you really want to do it, you got to have a team. The business side of it is a team effort. And right now, I'm going to shout out Chelsea Watkins, Dot Flanagan, Adam Lucas. We are again still in the infancy of this team dynamic, and we're still figuring it out. But it has really made some changes and made this thing grow a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where that side of it goes. But God damn it, I'm really looking forward to getting back on set.
Well, you've learned a lot about finances, collaboration in the biggest way. That's so many people to collaborate with and
Oh yeah,
schedule with, and yeah, get things figured out with. And me and you,
yeah.
like co-directed a lot of stuff where it's like that, like we really came up with flavors for like flavor profiles for like jokes and films, and you've learned a lot. And growing. You said the business part that is essential if you want a prod like it's nice to film like a quick skit on your phone or whatever, but say you want a $900 camera, like it's subject to change, you gotta put in a little bit of work. So maybe you do a couple like videography projects or whatever and save up for that, and then save up for the LLC. You got to pay for those kinds of things. RSS feeds for
Yeah,
podcasts.
and I want to talk more on the growing thing, because that's one of the harder things to do, is especially as a creative. Like, we all know what we want individually. Like I said, I know what I want to do. I want to go make sketches and short films, but that's not everything the company does or is trying to do. So I also have to kind of balance between what I want to do, what my partners want to do, and what works for all of us. And especially since I run the business side of it, I have to be very mindful that everyone needs to be heard and has a voice. That's hard to do sometimes, especially because I'm kind of hard-headed. But it's a balance. You got to be willing to, one, hear people when they tell you, "Hey, you're doing this thing. That's not going to work if we're going to make this work." And then go, like, examine yourself and go, "Yeah, okay. All right. You know what? I see that from an outside perspective. I'm going to work on that." And then you come back to the next meeting and go, like, "All right, here's how I've adjusted that behavior." And you move forward that way. So growth, personally and as a company, are two very important things. You always have to be asking those questions and listening, most importantly, to what your partners are saying.
When I worked with you, yeah, you did a really good job to make everybody involved, and it's definitely different doing like YouTube videos and then working on a production with people. A video by yourself or even just a short film by yourself, because I went that route, it feels more like a one player game, which is fun, but doing it with other people feels more like online play.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a very good analogy. Speaking of online, I'd like to do another shirt change real quick.
Yeah, you're good, man. While you do that,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell everybody to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it, and we can do more of these episodes, more art videos, collaborating with more artists and creators, and we can see Vinny change his shirt more and more. That's a great shirt. Social media was a mistake. Yeah, I love it. So now we've seen Vinny wardrobe change. We've heard his history. We've heard how he's working. Um, are there any last tips that you have that we've maybe didn't touch on for film, podcasting, acting, writing stories, or anything else?
What I think people need to do more often when they decide they want to do something is really ask themselves those hard questions. It's so easy to go, like, "Oh, this would look so cool, and here's a camera, and let's just shoot it and see what happens." But as soon, and I've watched the light drain from people's eyes the moment I start talking about paperwork. As soon as paperwork gets involved, or as soon as you start having to acknowledge, like, this isn't going to be as easy as you think it is, so many people drop out. Really, people do need to start acknowledging the idea that there's a lot of work that can go into even the simplest thing, whether it's from getting started, problems that might crop up during, or like in the advertising and trying to get eyes on it afterwards. So much boring, annoying shit And what people really need to start asking themselves before they decide to do it or drag somebody else into it is that committed to the idea? Because if you are, then you'll see it through. And yeah, you'll get irritated and you'll get mad, but like you're going to get it done because you want that badly. But if you're going to stop in the middle or you're going to start the conversation and then just never get back around to it, then you're not that committed. You don't really want to do this that bad. You just love it if somebody else could do it for you.
I've had to distinguish with that like a little bit. Sometimes I'll be talking to another creator or an artist, and I'll be talking very seriously about like the promotion aspect of the art or something. And then I realize I'm like, oh, that's right. This person is like coloring for fun. Like they're not treating it the same way I do. And so that's fine. But people need to know what they want.
It's practical thought and it's real talk. And if you're not having those practical, real conversations with yourself first, then you're going to waste a lot of people's time just trying to get something off the ground that you don't really even care that much about. Because as soon as it gets hard, you're going to drop out. And I've had a couple of those situations myself. And I mean, I'm sure I'm going to have more. You know, this podcast is not going to reach every person on the planet, and every person, even if it did, every person wouldn't listen to that advice. But if one or two people do learn from that and how to talk to themselves or talk themselves more into projects with that kind of mindset, because that's the opposite effect is like you can really attack something through your mind and go like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I'm willing to do to get it. And knowing that what you're doing is worthwhile from the very beginning, you're going to make magic. You're going to make really cool shit.
I agree, man. Totally. I think you shared a lot of great tips with us here today, and that about covers everything I have for this episode. Is there anything that you would like to promote that you're doing right now?
Yeah. Every Sunday, aside from the first Sunday of the month, we are doing STC's Bulletin Board, which is a streaming show we do on our YouTube channel, youtube.com at subject to change ENT, where we throw darts at a bulletin board with cards that we know what's on them because we pre-wrote them, but we shuffle them up and put them up at random. And then we just do whatever's on the card, whether that's an improv game or a card game. First card we pulled, we wrote a brand new sketch, which I am writing right now in screenplay form. And then that first Sunday of every month, we will be streaming the recording of a podcast, Subject to Pod, where one member of the pod brings a subject and we discuss it, break it down. And that has a release schedule now. The second to last Wednesday of every month, it'll go up on our Patreon, the video version exclusive to them. They're the only ones who get it after the stream. And the audio version comes out the last Wednesday of every month on YouTube and pretty much almost anywhere you can get podcasts. Like I know we're not on like Apple for whatever reason, but you know, Spotify, Amazon Music.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, man. Yeah, anybody should go ahead and subscribe to that. Check out their Patreon, the skits, the podcasts. That's all Subject to Change Entertainment across Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X,
yeah, and
Twitter.
we have a website now too.
Right.
We have a website now too, subtochange.com. Right now it is still under construction, but if you go there, that'll lead you to our link tree or directly to our Patreon. So that's another way to support us.
I had a good time with you here today, and I'd love to have you on another episode, man.
All right, sounds good.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Later. Love you, brother.
Love you too. Bye.